What is the height of this figure? A sphere is placed on top of the three spheres, touching each of the three spheres. All spheres are identical with a radius of 1. What is the height from the top to bottom as shown in the diagram? So the first thing I want to explain is the three spheres that are sitting on the ground like that. They have centers that are represented by these small dots, and those centers are joined by these lines, and that forms a triangle. And now we add a fourth sphere that is sitting on top of them, and that fourth sphere also has a center represented by that dot, and it is joined by these lines to the centers of the other spheres, like that. And that shape now is a tetrahedron. And that is going to help us figure out the height of this figure. And we are going to break up the height into three components. The first is from the very top of the top sphere to its center. We'll call that the first component. The second component is from the center of one of the bottom spheres to the very bottom, like that. And the third is going to be from the center of the top sphere to the base of that tetrahedron, right there. And if you add up these three, they will represent the height from top to bottom of that figure. Now let's see what we can figure out. We are told that the radius of each sphere is 1. Now the distance from here to here is just the radius. So that distance is equal to 1. At the bottom, the distance from here to here is also just the radius. So that is equal to 1. Now we have to figure out this distance right here. And that I will call h. H for height. And then I will draw a line from the base of the height to one of the centers, so like this. And I hope you can see that now I have created a triangle that is a right triangle. And that one is like this. This is the triangle I'm referring to. And that triangle has a right angle right here. And therefore, if I can find this side, I can find h. Now what about this side right here? Well, that is connecting two centers. It's connecting the center of the top sphere to the center of one of the bottom spheres. So because it's connecting two centers, it is equal to 2r, 2 times the radius. And therefore that is equal to 2, since the radius is equal to 1. So now all I need to do to figure out h is find the value of that x right there. Now to find the value of x, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this triangle that is representing the base of that tetrahedron, and I'll draw it over here. So here we go. And this is an equilateral triangle. Why? Because each side represents the distance between two centers. And the distance between two centers is 2 times the radius. And since the radius is 1, the distances are all 2. Now, where inside this triangle does the base touch? This base, where does it get to? Well, the answer to that is you have to draw perpendiculars from each side. So from the end, you have to draw up a perpendicular to that side, like that. From this side, you have to draw up a perpendicular to that side, and similarly, from that corner, a perpendicular to this side. And where they meet is that center point. That is where that height touches the base. So now I want you to look at this triangle right here. This is the length of x. Okay, the x that I have written there. In this diagram, that's where x is represented. Now this whole side is 2, and since I dropped a perpendicular to that side, I cut that side in half, and therefore this is 1 and that's 1. And then this is a right triangle, and if you remember, this was an equilateral triangle, so all the angles were 60 degrees. So that's 60 degrees. But I drew a line that cuts that in half, this line right here. So therefore, this angle in here will be 30 degrees. And since all the angles in triangle add up to 180, this is 60 degrees. Okay? And then I'll draw that triangle here just to make it a bit cleaner. This is 90, this is 60, this is 30. And do you remember the relationship of the sides in a 30, 60, 90 triangle? They have a ratio of 1, 2, and root 3. All 30, 60, 90 triangles have 1, 2, and root 3 as the ratio of their sides. So now we can use x and 1 and the ratios of those sides to figure out the value of x. So that means x over 1 is equal to 2 over root 3. And therefore x is equal to 2 over root 3. So now all we have to do is go back to this triangle and use the Pythagorean theorem to figure out the value of x. So we have h squared plus x squared is equal to 2 squared. H squared plus 2 over root 3 squared is equal to 4. And therefore h is equal to 4 minus, that will be 4 over 3. 12 minus 4 is 8 over 3 is 8 squared. And therefore h is equal to the root of 8 over 3. And now finally, the total height from top to bottom, total height was this right here, which is r, plus this h, plus this r right here. And therefore that is 1 plus 8 over 3, the square root of that, plus 1. So this is 2 plus the square root of 8 over 3. And if you want a decimal value, it will be approximately 3.633. So there you have it. That is how you figure out the height of that figure.